What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 25 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Skarbrand the Exiled Immortal Empires campaign. Or should I say part 25, sort of. I say sort of because, unfortunately, a bit of bad news. This particular episode got, I don't know, corrupted, the file got damaged, something. After I remuxed it to the MP4 format, which is the format used to upload to YouTube, the file seems to be no longer functional. Can't open it in anything, can't remux it again, nothing works. So in that light, this is going to be something of a weird episode. I'm not going to replay the episode again, but luckily, though the episode itself, as in the administrative aspect of it, is gone, the battles remain because they are still in the replays, meaning this episode is oops, all battles without any of the admin. Just as Khorne would have it, I suppose. So in light of that, I'm just going to briefly describe what we are going to fight in this particular episode. So first of all, Crookback Mountain is the siege, and Grawl the Harvester, the Blood Harvester, will start off by attacking it with this giant pile of, well, various bloodletters, followed by Bloodbound with, wouldn't you guess it, more bloodletters and more heralds and reapers. After that, we will have Kuchar the Blood Hunter and his mobile army attack Lucchini, and the solid garrison, thanks to the defensive structure therein, plus the defensive little army here, so it'll be a nice minor settlement battle. Next, it will be Skarbrand the Exiled attacking all of this, so Boris Todbringer with his demigriffs, his other army, his super high level Hellblaster volley guns, moots defenses, everything you can want. And then lastly, this army under Jurgen Brandt here, we will raise a blood host at the moot, and it will move this way as soon as being raised, as in, you know, just back off from the raising or whatever. And then Jurgen Brandt will actually attack this blood host with this army, and obviously it's all stage troops, 4 regiments of renown, lots and lots of good stuff in here. The Royal Altdorf Griffites, 10th Reichsguard, the Erge Jaeger Corps, yeah, nasty stuff. So it'll be a fun little last stand for the blood host, which is admittedly a much stronger blood host than the blood hosts that we used to have, thanks to having all the pillars except the Pillar of Prowess here. So yeah, mostly because Pillar of Prowess is pretty useless. It's a bit of a shame that the exalted bloodthirsters are only raised by, or exalted bloodthirsters only lead the blood hosts when summoned via this rather than by, well, by any of our blood hosts, but I suppose they're powerful enough, and I've been, by and large, avoiding using them, because obviously, well, then you could just play all of Khorne with just Skarbrand's army and a billion blood hosts, or same thing with Skulltaker or whatever. Anyway, I digress. Here we go. Oops, all battles. Let's start with Crookback Mountain, and then let's do all 4 at once. Yeah, did they use the same voices for the Bloodthirsters and the Heralds of Khorne? I guess we don't have all the Exalted Bloodthirsters. I gotta double check, see what they sound like. But, I mean, I do expect them to sound fairly similar. Anyway, here we go. I'm gonna take down that enemy tower first, of course, under fire from the Poison Wind Globadiers and Death Globe Bombardiers. And I'm sure we'll take a little bit of damage, but most of our units should be able to close with that gate and just fine. It seems that the Skull Cannons are rather poor at actually bringing down walls as compared to towers. I mean, they do have a lot more HP. Here. Yeah, they only take, let's see, about 300 damage per hit from the Skull Cannon shots, and while Skull Cannons may be amazing, it's not really what they're for, so we're probably gonna get to fire a few more shots off. And then just give up on that because it'll be faster to just break through the gates. Also speed this up while we're at it. And by the looks of it, at least a few of the enemy will get close enough to the gate to start defending it. And thusly, you get the spin-to-winning motorcycles, or at least a few of them, inside. And now, actually, a fair few more. Looks like the War Shrine closes in. We got 3 motorcycles. Of course, the enemy does have that Hill Pit Abomination, which is going to be a major threat to them, so we're going to have to try to focus it down as best we can. Luckily, with the cultist on the War Shrine here, we do have access to the Gate of Khorne and can summon at least 1 small unit of Bloodletters inside. It does look like the enemy will hit back with artillery, though. Willing to kill off a bunch of its own rats to kill off these summoned Bloodletters, which, again, rattingly appropriate, but at the same time, probably not so good for the rats. We still got about 8,000 HP on the gate, but fortunately, it looks like with the enemy distracted by the Blood Reapers, the Hellforged host were able to bring their ram close and are now able to bring down the gate and make their way into the battle, where we have opened up a rather nice breach. These summoned Bloodletters are doing pretty good, and I'm sure the summoned Bloodthirster will help out nicely as well. And this is our Bloodletter Supremacy army, originally used by Skarbrand, or at least about half of it originally used by Skarbrand. Obviously without the blood shrines or the blood cannons or the copious amounts of motorcycle riding blood reapers. But hey, they're enjoying themselves. And the skull cannons are here as well. Since it wasn't being super effective attacking the walls, we might as well just attack the infantry. The enemy Hell Pit Abomination is done, mobbed by motorcycles. Got a nice little motorcycle gang here. While more and more of our Bloodletters stream into the city, and we got 5 more coming in as reinforcements, so they're about to join the fray as well. Of course, artillery fire keeps coming down upon us, so we do have to be careful, though by the looks of it, the only unit that is significantly damaged or melting away was the summoned one, and they would have run out of time anyway. And hey, our single unit of Blood Crushers, the Heralds of Khorne's Fury, have arrived as well. They can at least keep up with all the motorcycles as we have a bridge to cross. There we go. Oh, the camera's a little bit difficult on the bridges, but that's life. Used to it at this point. Alright, there we go. Very nice charge into those storm vermin, but it looks like the sort of forward elements of the little rat pack here did keep some of our blob from moving forward too much. Gonna have to use our mass to try to push through them as best we can. There we go. What the heck is that? Looks like a little tracer fire. Oh, it's the little... huh. Is it supposed to do that? It looks like the fire from the... Oh, it's not doing it anymore. It might have had something to do with the bridge. It looks like the fire from this was going up. It was very strange. But anyway, not important. We've crossed the bridge now, and the fire effects are no longer going into the air. More Bloodletters are moving into the enemy settlement while we move forward and deeper into the enemy ranks. A doom wheel has been found. A little bit of motorcycle versus, well, I guess not motorcycle, something cycle action. The pump rat on the back is doing all the work anyway. Alrighty, and the Doom Wheel is obviously not going to have a great time here, especially here by itself. And even if it tries to get away, we have, I want to say, like, minimum 3 units that have Menace in this particular army, so a ton of Tormentor sort of abilities available to us, should we need to trap anybody. And everybody has a massive amount of spell resistance as well at 140% thanks to stacking Menace, and thusly any spell work, any Warp Lightning or whatever will not be all that threatening to us. It reminds me, I think it was one of the recent campaigns, I don't remember which one it was, but one of our blobs of units got hit by a Crack's Call, which I think I almost never see from the AI. I swear that was like the first time I've ever seen the AI use Crack's Call ever, and it basically did like 80% damage to like half the army. I think it was in the Kislev campaign, maybe, possibly. I'm not sure. But anyway, what's important is that the enemy is running out of stuff now. The bounce power is at about 90%. Our Blood Reapers are leading the charge together with the Blood Crushers. And while a fair few storm vermin and clan rats remain, there's not all that much to be concerned about. Plus, one of our units of blood shrines did manage to get through towards those plague claw catapults. Perhaps what I should have done is use the summoned bloodthirster to knock out the artillery pieces, but at the same time, having them fire a little bit isn't too bad of a thing, as we've seen in battles past where we've let the enemy artillery remain and fire upon us. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that the AI immediately tries to use all of its abilities on the player's artillery, I wouldn't bother knocking out the enemy artillery, but it's sort of like-for-like sort of situations. And of course there's the fact that on the higher difficulties, the AI dodges artillery fire. Again, I guess I'm not going to do that, the player's not going to do that. I mean, I guess if you play on slow-mo, you could potentially dodge artillery fire. But I don't like to play on slow-mo. I don't like it in Battlefield Gothic either. On the one hand, I think it makes for some bad habits in terms of not reacting to stuff quickly enough, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm too impatient to play slow, you know what I mean? Just like to see things crash into each other, but that's not important. What is important is that the enemy artillery sometimes, most of the time, must go because the AI will target your artillery, A, and B, will also dodge your artillery fire. I feel like that should be a separate toggle on its own. Again, if the AI didn't dodge your artillery, I might not bother knocking out the enemy artillery. Something to think about, but anyway, I digress. Without the enemy army shatters in the battle's hours, there is a unit of plague monks running around, which we are kind of ignoring, but it might be that this unit was either desynced or maybe I just forgot about it and only noticed it at the end here. Yeah, there we go. Blood Shrine can help out against them. Oh, this is a Sensor Bearer unit. They could have actually helped on the defense a fair bit. Still, you gotta admit, a very nice fight for the Bloodletters here. And since this was always going to be the first fight of this particular episode, the lead up to it that got corrupted didn't really matter because this is how that episode started anyway. So far, it's almost 100% exactly the same as it was. Alrighty, and 9 units of Plague Monks remain. Out of curiosity, we got 36 kills and 3.8k damage on the Blood Shrine. Not so bad. That's something. I mean, obviously, the benefit of this thing is all the auras and stuff that it provides. In the Gates of Khorne, the damage is not necessary. And frankly, these things also have the value of absorbing a lot of damage, which is why it's good to stack resistances on them, because the AI has a tendency to focus them down with ranged attacks and stuff. And sometimes with heroes and such. And if the War Shrines are absorbing a lot of the damage by virtue of being support units, therefore it's good to have them be as resistant to all that as possible, so that other more fragile units like these Bloodletters don't have to be the ones to absorb it. Anyway, with that, the last of the Unbreakable Rats falls, and the battle is ours. Alrighty, here we go, round 2, Blood Hunt Boogaloo, with Kuchar leading his pack of armored skin wolves and his singular incarnate elemental of beast. I've been really happy with this army, with this take on the Blood Hunt. I've been wanting Kuchar to have the armored skin wolves, and without them I didn't want to build the army until we got them. And here we are. Besides, normally I would have probably given him a lot of the sort of motorcycles and the Gore Beast chariots, but since those went to other armies, it makes sense to have waited for this very specific sort of setup. Plus, I really think it works. Again, if I can manage to keep the Incarnate Elemental Beasts with Kuchar's armies in sort of future campaigns, I'm pretty happy. And ooh, looks like an enemy... whatchamacallit, Bloated Corpse moves forward, though it does damage some of its own units and deals no damage to us. It distracts us a little bit and allows for the enemy to do about 50% HP damage to the Wheels of Feels unit. the Blood Shrine. In the meantime, Kuchar is trying to duel the enemy lord, though it looks like the enemy lord is now being pushed forward by the piles of chariots, the 2 gore beasts and the 4 irregular chariots, as they make their way into the enemy settlement and ride down as many of the enemy range units as they can. Here, it's probably more important to distract the range units than to bother cycle charging, because obviously the zombies are very fragile, and it's just better not to have them firing. And they're not going to do a lot of damage without polearm depth guard or even depth guard or death guard, or even too many of these zombie pirate deckhand mobs, so that we should not probably be concerned. In the meantime, if you're wondering where Karanak and his doggos are, we looped them all the way around the enemy settlement. They have stock, of course, as the enemy did have 3 or 4, I don't know, a lot of artillery pieces deployed over on this side. The artillery pieces were destroyed long before the enemy could react to anything, which isn't surprising. We're quick, the enemy is not. And Karanak's got a few more dogs to summon on the field while he starts taking care of those rotting Prometheans. I believe Fleshhounds are large units, so the zombie pirate deckhand mobs will rely on their very solid 20 large bonus to dish out damage to them. Though we are, of course, much killier than the enemy unit is, and especially with their slow attacks. And we cause bleed at that, but I do expect some damage on the corn dogs and the other flesh hands. On the bright side, though, it looks like that position, the key enemy position, is overrun. Kuchar is still fighting in the midst of the enemy formation after killing off the enemy lord and one of the enemy vampire fleet captains. Kuchar is trying to go for the second vampire fleet captain. What the heck, little brazier collapsed, huh? Oh, that reminds me, for those who have been around for a while, it reminds me of the Total Warhammer 2 campaign with Mazda Mundi getting trapped in a little circle of pots in an elven battle. I'm just I'm having a difficult time talking about it because I found it so funny and it amuses me so much. Like, they're tiny little pots, like this size, on the ground, and there was like a circle of them, and Mazda Mundi on Zalak got trapped in them and couldn't get out. And unlike that brazier, they didn't collapse. But anyway, I digress. The Blood Shrines and the Skin Wolves still doing good work here. Technically, the Skin Wolves here are anti-large, and while admittedly the anti-large is very much needed in this particular army, as otherwise it would not be able to easily handle large units, obviously with the piles of chariots and whatnot. So again, I do think that it works very nicely here as well. Plus, of course, Kuchar's community lure is that he is a skin wolf beneath all that armor. And what I was starting to say was that the skin wolves in this particular fight did not really have the ability to leverage all that anti-large of theirs, but that's alright. They minced that infantry just fine. And there we go, with that, the last of the zombies are banished, save one little unit down here by the looks of it. And Karanak will lead the charge. Oh, we'll actually take a few pistol shots, but oh, and it's a boarding crew unit as well. Alright, Karanak bounding around, applying wounded prey to them, though the melee defense -5 drops them to 0 melee defense. Huh, what's their standard melee defense? Oh, crumbling is -25. I was wondering why that was, because I didn't remember boarding group have anywhere near that low melee defense, especially, I guess, under Luther Harkin. Anyway, we do have another doggo summoning that we have available to us, as it is now off cooldown. Though only one was sufficient for Karanak to defeat the other unit. And there's not much to say, just running out the clock of this last unit, and I guess there's another little last unit over here, which is about to get crushed between all the chariots and skin wolves and Kuchar in the center of things, as he should be. Alrighty, there we go. With that, a very nice little minor settlement fight is ours, and a heroic victory, Kuchar's.
Throughout this land in a tide of blood,
Alrighty, here we go again. Ooh, nice fire breath directly into all of those Knights Panther. And gotta knock out those anti-large units after all. But anyway, this is the big fight with potentially a ton of damage, a lot of super elite units like all those Hellblaster volley guns, which are absolutely not to be underestimated. To try to do as much damage as possible, we even activate our bloodthirster's ability, I forgot what it was called. The thing that gives us a massive amount of damage at the cost of our physical resistance. Rage of Khorne, there we go. All not hero lords, so it'll just, assuming that I don't know if it affects yourself, but it'll affect the soul grinder, making it hit for 725, which is pretty darn solid. Anyway, as I was starting to say, we've got a big pile of enemies against us and lots of different Imperial units, and we're trying to do as much damage to all of them as possible with Skarbrand's merry little band before the rest of the enemy reinforcements, including Boris Todbringer himself, make their way onto the battlefield, simply because the enemy is bringing a ton of range units, and we're going to have to back off as soon as those guys are close enough, because we just have a bunch of single entities, and they'll be able to focus them down. The one slight unfortunate aspect of this particular fight, for now it's going fine, but there is a small desync in it where Boris is supposed to die but somehow survives. And kind of the same thing happened with the tank last time we fought the Imperials. I wonder why. Does one of our units actually have Executioner or Executor and is killing enemy lords and then they're not dying? Because that thing does cause desyncs. And I would expect Khorne to have Executor, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, not important right now. What is important is Boris has arrived and Skarbrand will move towards him immediately. The rest will do partial fighting, but more so a fighting withdrawal. Actually, speaking of fighting withdrawal, Boris immediately gets the heck away from Skarbrand after losing about 40% of his or 50% of his HP to a couple of hits, and will instead attempt to move towards easier prey in the form of, well, literally anything else. Anywhere else. If you're looking for easier prey than Skarbrand, I suppose it's pretty much everyone. There are very few exceptions. Anyway, as I was starting to say, we're going to do a fighting withdrawal here. We've summoned a free bloodthirster as well as those bloodletters on field, and hopefully they'll distract the enemy long enough while the rest of our units back off. And here is where the desync starts. At this point, Boris should be dead, which is why Skarbrand is backing off and no longer attacking him. So this is going to allow Boris's unit to keep attacking us while our army is blind to him by virtue of the nature of the desync. So he'll just keep attacking some of these guys, but it is what it is. On the right side, our reinforcements have arrived, and the main reason we're not charging towards them is that this is the army that has those Cygors, and they're going to start doing some work. There we go. Huh. And one sort of missed, but also wasn't all that bad. I note that the Stir River Patrol have the exact same armor and shield types of the boarding crew. But anyway. Yeah, so again, our army is unfortunately ignoring Boris by virtue of the nature of the desync, but at least other stuff is not being ignored, though one minor issue, looks like some demigryphs are starting to make their way towards our pile of our pile of Cygors. Now, Cygors are okay in melee. I mean, they're not good in melee, but they will still dish out damage. And there are 4 of them here after all, so the demigryphs should still be wary. Especially since they can't surround and kill one, they just get crushed by all of them working together. Looks like Murderous Exhortations pops off as the enemy heroes still close the distance. The enemy Empire Captain being absolutely obliterated by Khorne's Bloody Fist, completely unsurprisingly, mind you. While Skarbrand is still fighting random units of demigryphs. And they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, either attack the piles of Cygors and whatnot, or attack Skarby himself. We did back off the units of Skull Reapers for a moment, as I didn't want the artillery firing upon them until we got a little bit closer with our Chaos Knights, who, one unit is looping around this direction, and then the other unit is looping around this direction as well. And gotta close the distance with all of those giant piles of range units. On the right side, Skarby can absorb a fair few of those hits. We're just gonna have to back off the Khorne's Bloody Fist. And yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about with the desync. The Boris stayed alive and by virtue of it attacked and killed off our blood shrine, or our war shrine, whatever. Obviously that didn't actually happen. And not that our army is just going to continue ignoring him because he's actually dead as far as the game is concerned. Yeah, that seems like an executor or an executioner desync. And the last time we fought the Imperials, the tank not dying, well, the tank was a master engineer and thus could have been executed in one thing and then, well, not executed in the replay. Which is, I think, the issue over what happens here. But anyway, I suppose at the end of the day it's not that important. It's a very minor desync with only one unit, and I don't think Boris, even if it is Boris, is going to be able to do... Level 41, wow. Even with level 41 Boris, I don't think he's going to be able to do enough damage for him to carry the day. Anyway, our Skull Reapers have finally closed the distance and will start mincing their way through the piles of enemy infantry, as our Chaos Knights finally hit the enemy backliners. There we go. Though our several of our Cygors were chucking rocks at them, it's frankly faster to have the Chaos Knights do it, though. They move in so slowly. Chaos Knights are very slow, heavy cav. They always want, you know, banners of swiftness and rangers standards and all that, but we just don't have enough to give to all of them, so... they'll just have to make do with what they've got, which is nothing. The bright side is that under Tavi, well, really any cultist, any Bloodspeaker's army, they at least get the bonus 15% speed offered by the cultist, and I don't remember if they get any bonus speed from the red line, but it would be nice if they did. Anyway, with the Chaos Knights having closed the distance with the enemy backliners, I think the enemy army is doomed. Obviously, their infantry has little hope of defeating the roided-out Skull Reapers. They may not be Wrathmongers, but they are more than enough to mince a bunch of Empire State troops. Boris, again, ignored throughout the entire battle, but is now just going to shatter with the rest of his army as the battle closes in our favor. A very nice fight, and we got severely damaged. Admittedly, a lot of our single entities are more damaged than they actually were, again, by virtue of Boris attacking them, but otherwise the battle went pretty much the same as it should have. And a very, very nice fight. I doubt that we're going to get a better fight against the Empire than this. Although you never know, especially if we split Skarby off again with his just 6 units and have him run at full and more than full stacks. But anyway, that's 3. We got one more fight as Oops All Battles continues. Alright, for those that don't recall, the last battle is the Blood Host that we raised at the Moot, which suddenly got attacked by this Huntsman General Jürgen Brandt, which decided, you know what, I'm not going to even try attacking Skarbrand after seeing Boris and his 2.5 stacks fail. I'm going to attack this little easy target of the Blood Host instead. And admittedly, considering the elite nature of the enemy army, with the piles of state troops, the 4 regiments of renown, including the Royal Altdorf Griffites, the high-level regular Demigriff Knights, the enemy's got much better troops than ours, but at the same time, this is the AI, and what they don't have is much better tactics. Now, this is going to be, in order to try to do this, absolutely reliant on rock, paper, scissors. Oh wow, our is level 1. Huh, they could at least make the Blood Host start at a higher level if they're not going to get replaced by the exalted bloodthirsters. Anyway, what I was starting to say was this. The Demigriffs and the Reichsguard are devastatingly good units, but they will lose to an Exalted Bloodletter unit if they're forced in melee combat and are unable to escape. So the key is to keep them locked down and fighting rather than relying on Cycle Charge. If we allow them to Cycle Charge, they will destroy all of our Bloodletters. If they're locked in melee, they will not. At the same time, we have sort of separated all of our Bloodletters with a little, distance between them, so the enemy artillery can't fire upon multiple of them, while we approach the enemy army from behind with all of our units of Fleshhounds and Chaos Furies. Now, I fully expect those to die, but what I do want from them is to tie up all the enemy range units and do their best to prevent them from firing and chase down any ones that get destroyed. Oh, it looks like the first of the enemy demigriffs close the distance, and it's the Royal Outdoor Griffites, which with their absolutely magnificent color scheme, one of my favorite color schemes in the game, the sort of blood red together with the sort of steel blue that they've got going. Blue steel. Anyway, it's a very, very nice color scheme. So we're going to try to send the bloodthirster to sort of anchor these bloodletters, and we're going to drop the physical resistance in favor of the Rage of Khorne, massively increasing our exalted bloodletters damage to 118 armor piercing. I'm hoping that with the numbers and the fact that more of our bloodletters are attacking the enemy knights, oh, we got knights and more here as well, which are unfortunately causing some of the, oh, dreaded, doesn't matter to us, I think. At the very least, I doubt it. But yeah, trying to simply out-damage the Demigriff Knights here, and doing reasonably well at it. We've lost about half HP on one of our Exalted Bloodletters, about a quarter on the other, but the enemies also lost about half HP themselves. Plus we got the Blood Shrine sporting. Otherwise, the enemy's center line, a unit of Teutogan Guard, have collapsed, and the enemy's range units are having a rather difficult time with all of our Furies and Fleshhounds. The Hammer of the Witch's cannons have been taken out, and several of the other artillery pieces and range units. The Sutsun's guns and the crossbows here are either tied up or destroyed, which is very nice. Obviously, unfortunately, it does mean that we have to leave the Zintler's Reichsguard and another unit of the Stubborn Bulls, who are left to protect the other units of range, and thusly will probably chase down and destroy our Fleshhounds, but we're outnumbered, and some units would always have to be sacrificed here in order for us to do the damage. On the bright side, the enemy's left flank with the 3 Demigriff Knights and, or 2 Demigriff Knights and the Knights of the Black Rose have all collapsed. The 3rd Demigriff Knight unit is almost out. And while the enemy lord we've been ignoring, it's definitely worth it to knock out the major damage dealers. And as we can see, we're still preventing them from running away and cycle charging, keeping those units locked down and fighting. And of course, I'm sure lots of those kills, 42 kills on the Bloodthirster, that's 42 just Knights and Demigriff Knights. Pretty darn solid. Alright, and it looks like the enemy infantry, there we go. The cavalry have collapsed, the infantry have collapsed, and though we ignored the enemy lord, who did admittedly almost snipe our own lord, who was pretty low HP with the arrow of Akshi, I guess, or whatever he was using. At the end of the day, we actually managed to win this fight. And there we go, folks. That's the 4th and final battle that happened in this particular episode. And yeah, I gotta admit, there were some good ones. So I think even just stitched together as Uppsala battles, it was still a pretty darn good show. I think we're probably going to end this campaign in 1 or 2 episodes, as obviously, once again, the interest isn't there anymore. But, well, this is the time to get those last great battles for Khorne out and about, and soon to start enjoying some Bretonnian fights over the next couple of days, most likely. Anyway, with that, this episode comes to a close. Next time, we continue fighting and trying to find good fights within the Empire and everywhere else, really. Another heroic victory, but this one does not surprise me at all.